Welcome to Rather Be Teaching. I'm Janelle Carroll, and let's get started. Welcome, amazing, innovative, and progressive educators. How do I know you're one of them? Because you're here. So today, I'd rather be teaching Wonderopoly QR break-in style. So what is it? Well, this is tailor-made for 21st century student engagement through module learning and asynchronous teaching. This truly is a game-changing approach to small group center instruction. Now, everyone plays everything, and the only way through it is to do it. There's no time on the bench. So let's just look at some of the ways that QRBREAKIN really checks all of the boxes for the skills and things that we want to see in our classroom today. If we're talking about the 4 C's, communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking, QRBREAKIN has it all. There is immediate feedback, modeling a growth mindset, multiple modality learning. Students learn in lots of different ways, and there's lots of different ways that they like to interpret their learning. Student drawing, self-guided learning. We're going to put in some technology, learning through play, and something that is really huge for QRBREAKIN is lots of peer-to-peer interaction. So there's really a 3-step process to this. Select, solve, and redeem. Now, select, students will be getting a new puzzle to solve from the available choices by rolling a dice. They're going to solve the activity, and they're going to be taking that puzzle to their desk group with their teammates. Then they're going to redeem the puzzle to earn the color-coded success badges. You know they love that. Now, this can completely replace lectures or that direct instruction that we typically do at the beginning of a unit. This is truly going to add instant life to Wonders. We really need that. And this is going to be tapping into your students' sense of autonomy, wonder, and especially their curiosity. What's really great about this pedagogy is that there's no more of that kind of age-old 3, 2, 1, rotate type of approach to small group centers. And as we know, there's always groups that have been done for ages, and they're just kind of sitting there until the timer goes off. And then there's other groups that are not ready to move on, but they're told that they need to. And then they're asking you like, wait, I just have one more question I need to do. So this really eliminates that. There's no need for those expensive kind of breakout boxes with locks. None of that. And usually there's only a few students at the end of breakouts that get to unlock the box and have a lot of the fun. This eliminates that also. And we're talking about escape rooms. I've used a lot of them in my classroom. I know if you've used escape rooms, you've noticed that there's students that do not really participate as much as other students. Sometimes there's a student in a group that just kind of takes over and figures out the puzzles and puts in the codes, and then they break out. So again, all of this is eliminated, and this is a total game changer. Let's take a look at how we're going to be mixing the digital with traditional. So some of the digital examples that I'm going to be showing you are just some examples. You really get to choose what apps or digital things you're going to plug in to your stations. So when we plug in some of the digital, here are some options. Especially with the younger grades, we can use Seesaw activities, something that maybe off of Seesaw goes with our Wonder curriculum. Maybe there's a quizzes, a book it, a give kit we can use, whichever, one of those apps that your students really love. There's Edpuzzle. We can use a Google form. We can find a YouTube video. We can have students record themselves making a flip grid or flip. Really, it's up to you, and you have a lot of choices. Looking at traditional examples, again, you really get to choose what kind of works with your students, but let's take a look at a few examples here. So plugging in some of these traditional things, such as sketchnoting, right? Present students with like maybe a big poster board. That's something that I did. It fit over like 4 desks, so everyone can be sketching and putting annotations on it all at the same time. You can plug in story cubes. Story cubes are an amazing way to get students to use visual cues to represent their learning. There even is digital story cubes if you didn't have the actual physical set. Now, story cubes really provide good visual cues to assist students when they're telling a story, and it really stimulates that creative thinking that we're looking for. And it really demands a multifaceted problem solving that challenges super high levels of Bloom's taxonomy. So you might want to look into those. Also, there's something called a micro lab. Think of it kind of like a mini Socratic seminar. The micro lab station is basically like a cluster of desks with all the students in a given team. Students will call the teacher over to visit the center, and they discuss an assigned prompt for like a full 5 minutes. And then also you can always plug in those traditional graphic organizers. I know Wonders already has graphic organizers, or you can use ones that your students are familiar with that you think are most beneficial. Again, it's really up to you. So a big tip is make sure your class, your students, are really familiar with all of the tools, even the traditional tools, right? They need to know how to use Seesaw. They need to understand kind of how sketchnoting works, those story cubes, your graphic organizers, all of those things. You really want to possibly do a whole class for a while, like low cognitive load activities with them, and then students will start to begin to understand how those tools work. You really want to make sure they're familiar with the tools before you do this QR break-in, because you really don't want your students having to ask questions about, how do I fill in this graphic organizer, or how do I use a tool on Seesaw. You want to make sure that they're all ready to go and very familiar with things, and then the QR break-in is going to run much more smoothly. Let's take a look at how you're going to be using the Wonders weekly planner. So you can open up on the Wonders app something called the weekly planner. You probably already have looked at this before. So when you go to the plan at the top bar, you're going to see the weekly planner. You're going to press the weekly planner, and that's going to open up to something that looks like this. We're going to use this. You'll see day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. You'll see all the different activities for the whole week. This is where we're going to start to pull some of those important things from Wonders for our stations. Some of the most important Wonders weekly tasks are basically the things that you use every week with Wonders, right? The vocabulary, there's always vocabulary. There's a listening comprehension. There's discussion questions. We have the essential question. I also like to use the essential video. There's the closed read, the shared read. We got comprehension. You could even start to put in leveled readers at some point. There are so many activities, but we really want to make sure we choose the most important for our Wonders weekly tasks that we're going to be building into our station. Let's look at how you're going to plug in your stations. All right, so this is an example of a station. you're going to notice that there's a consistent visual logo for your theme. Of course, we're doing a Monopoly theme, but we changed it to Wonderopoly. You're going to have the activity type. You're going to see a QR code right there. You're going to have activity instructions. What's really great is those instructions are already going to be made for you. There's going to be a submission requirements kind of in the bold right there. And you're going to see all the game icons are going around this whole station. Now, there can be 6 or 8 differentiated stations to complete in small groups. So this is what a station is going to look like when your students take this off the hub or the whiteboard. So how are we going to plug these in? So looking at the weekly planner, where it's circled right there, we're looking at a shared read, talking about mysterious oceans. You can plug that into a station like the example that I just showed you. We're going to make this into a edpuzzle, which is really great because edpuzzle, a lot of teachers have already made an edpuzzle that goes right with whatever you're doing with your Wonders. That mysterious oceans shared read, I found an edpuzzle with questions and everything I needed already made on there. Now, there is already going to be some fun writing on this, right? It says this challenge might appear simple, but you'll need to be nimble to grab a hold of the thimble. So to unlock the token, the thimble token, you'll need to pay close attention to the tiniest of details. Thankfully, self-paced video technology available on demand allows the next generation of scholars to do just that. So you're going to have every member of your team complete the edpuzzle. And then once they get that token, right, you as the property manager, the teacher, you're going to go over and make sure that all the students did, in fact, do the edpuzzle. Let's take a look at another example. So looking again at the weekly planner, I see something that's important. There's a listening comprehension. This is an interactive read aloud. This one, for example, was about bacteria. I'm going to plug that into a sketch note station, the battleship. So again, for this challenge, they're going to have to work together, and they're going to be going to the Wonders website, which I put in the right-hand corner right there. They're going to listen to the audio of that. Now, you can easily assign that audio right on the students' Wonders website or their app. Now, the sketch has to include like 8 items, and they have to annotate and put facts with that. And then once they're finished, they're going to call you over, the property manager, and you're going to kind of check to make sure that it's up to par. Now, if it's not up to par, they will have to wait 2 whole minutes before they get to try it again, and they might have to review a few things. So that's another example. I looked at my Wonders weekly planner and I saw there was a closed reading. This was from a literature anthology. It was Why the Evergreen Trees Never Lose Their Leaves. Now, I found an amazing video that went exactly with what I wanted. This the Sci Case, they have a lot of different science videos that really worked well with this. So to earn the iron, the students had to iron out a few key details. So they had to watch the linked video, discuss with their group what they're watching, and then they had to have each member of their team make a list of any 5 things from the video that stood out to them the most. And they had to make sure to title their list and remember to write in complete sentences. Remember, you get to kind of modify these stations and put in the writing that you think that you need to put in here. And then when they were ready, the property manager, that's you go over to review, and if it's good to go, they'll earn the iron. Now, if it's not, they'll spend 2 minutes waiting for the iron to reach temperature before they can resubmit. Something else with Wonders is on the student outcomes, there's always going to be some vocabulary. We really want students to be using that academic language wherever we can. So for vocabulary, it's so great. You can easily plug that into a quizzes, the little terrier. So then basically the whole team has to get at least 100% score. Well, only 2 teammates have to earn 100% score. And then once they're finished, if everyone has participated, then you're gonna come over and make sure that everything looks good, and then they can earn that token and they finish that station. So the stations are all color coordinated with the different game icons, right? So like Ed Puzzle goes with the yellow with the thimble. You've got a flip grid that goes with a money bag. We've got a Google form. It goes with a race car, blue battleship, sketchnoting. So you kind of see all the colors there and they coordinate. The stations need to be ready to go. So you're gonna have those printed and they're gonna be up on your whiteboard with some magnets. Now, I think I got these off Amazon. They're basically called kind of those like plastic protective covers. The stations will just slip right into those, and then you can have those up on your whiteboard because the students are going to be coming up when they roll that dice. If you look in the corner there, I found kind of an old box, just something that I thought was kind of cool, and I put the dice on a table in that kind of old cool looking box. Now when they roll the dice, that's how they're going to figure out which station they're going to pull from the whiteboard. So they're going to pull it off, they're going to leave the magnet, and then when they finish, they're going to put it back up on the whiteboard, and then of course they roll the dice and they choose another station. So you want to have everything ready and set, and basically this kind of starts to just run itself. Let's take a look at the timer and the scoreboard. So you are going to have this amazing Wonderopoly Monopoly board up projecting on your big screen for all your students to see. What's really great about this is that you can have this set up ready to go before your students come in. Usually after recess, when I knew students were going to be coming back, I would have this up, some music playing that kind of went with this theme. And if you notice, the timer is already on the template for you, and I would suggest using that 45 minutes for this. So you have all of this ready to go and the momentum is high, and when students come in, they're super excited. So as you can imagine, this really is a game changer with the Wonders, because students know that they're going to be doing something engaging and exciting, and you just want to keep that momentum building through this. Now the scoreboard can be given to every team captain. So they only need one of these per group. This is going to be how they're going to be keeping score. Now you can always modify the scoreboard. You can take things out, you can put other things in, but this is basically what it comes with and what the scoreboard looks like. And we will get a little bit more into detail about the scoreboard, but students will be earning those thimbles, battleship, the little icons. They will be earning those tokens, and those tokens mean that they completed those stations. Now, if you didn't want to use the tokens, sometimes I did have students just cross out like the top hat or cross out the money bag. Then they would know that they finished that station. Let's take a look at how student teams are going to be earning houses and hotels. Oh, they love this. So there is going to be these little houses on the left-hand side of each corresponding station. They are going to be on their scoreboard. Now, each team rolls the dice, or the dice have all the different icons on them. And if they land on a station that they already completed, let's say they already completed the battleship, which was the sketch noting, they get to cross off a house. Now, let's just say they roll again and they get the battleship again. They would get to keep crossing off that house. So once all 4 houses are filled, the team earns a hotel, which they really want very badly. Once all 4 of those houses, basically once the team has rolled 4 battleships with the dice, because they already finished that station, the team earns a hotel. Hotels are super important for this game, this Monopoly style QR break-in. So basically the final score comes down to using their math skills, their multiplication skills to figure out the points that they have earned when the timer is up. They get 2 points for each house. So they're going to be counting up all of their houses, multiplying those, and then they get 5 points for that special hotel. So they're going to count up all their hotels and multiply those by 5 or add them up. Once they figure out their total number of houses, total number of hotels, then they will figure out their total property value. Now, the team with the highest total property value wins the Wonderopoly QR break-in. So really it's up to chance and rolling the dice, and students don't know who's going to be the winner until the last moment. So let's take a look when students need help, and they might need some help. So before the QR break-in even begins, you want to make sure that you give each team 2 of these get out of jail tokens. They look like the ones on the left there. Now the 2 tokens, they can hold these up or hold one up during the whole duration of your QR break-in while it's running. If they hold one of these up, then you as the property manager can go over and see what a team might need help with. Now, something really interesting, and you'll have to discover this for yourself when you try this out, is students really do not like to use those get out of jail tokens. I think possibly because of the scarcity of only having 2 and they're kind of hoarding those during the time, they typically will not hold these up. What's great is they can work together as a team and they're trying to figure things out. They do not want to have you come over and try to see what they might need help with, and then they might lose one of those tokens. So it's really interesting that they will not typically want to use one of those. Now, I have had where a few students will hold these up possibly. Now, when they hold them up and you come over, those get out of jail tokens are not answers. They're just some information to help a group get over like a hurdle or see the information in a new way. So these are just some get out of jail free tokens that you want to make sure you have printed out, ready to go, and you would give 2 to each team just in case. Let's take a look at some ways that you can modify and differentiate. So these are just some suggestions or things that you can try. Now, it's really up to your discretion as the teacher, as the property manager, to decide what really works for your class, right? It really depends on the grade level, the age of the students you're working with, and you really know your class best. Now, if we take a look at the battleship was the sketchnoting. Now, the QR break-in for this Monopoly already comes with kind of pre-made stations. They had include 10 items for drawing and annotating, but I changed mine to 6 or 8 items. So you can always modify those. And really with the younger grades, maybe you start with just 3 items or 4 items for them to sketch and annotate and put facts down on. It really depends kind of on how your class is, and again, like that grade level. If we're looking at the terrier was the vocabulary with the quizzes. They needed to have 2 teammates earn a 100% score. Again, you know your students best, and if there is a team, right, and say they've tried so hard, they've been doing the quizzes over and over again, and they still can't get that 100%, but they got close, right? They got to a 90. Maybe that is where you say, you know what, I see you really tried. It's all right to not get 100%. Maybe, you're okay with the 90%. If we look at the iron was watching like a YouTube video that went with the Wonders curriculum, something that was in the weekly planner. Now, I had my students, when I taught first grade, write down like 5 facts that they found from the video. But again, looking at your grade level, maybe they just write down 3 facts. Maybe if you're teaching first grade, they find 2 facts. It's really up to your discretion again as the teacher. And then when we're looking at that scoreboard, you do not have to do 8 stations. That might be a little too much for elementary students. Or you can try, lesser stations in the beginning and then keep adding them in as your class gets familiar with this. So I used 6 stations instead of 8, worked really well with 5th. And then, for the lower students, you could always start with maybe 4 stations. It's really up to you again. And you can always modify the scoreboard. You can take things out, right? If you're not going to use a Google form, it doesn't really work with what your Wonders is that week, or it doesn't work with your grade level, you can always take that out. You could take, like, for example, the race car out, and you're not going to use that one. You could take the iron out. You're not going to use a YouTube for that week. Or you're going to plug something else in. Again, you can use your creativity, knowing your class, the grade level, and really modify and differentiate different things depending on the needs of your students. Now let's look at what a bonus station is going to look like for possible early finishers. Now, these are just some examples. Remember, you get to use your creativity, and you can just do whatever you want with your bonus station, but there might come a time in a QR break-in in your class where one team might finish just a little bit earlier than the rest of the teams. Again, it's really up to your discretion as the teacher. You're going to have to make sure that a team is not ending or finishing all of their stations way ahead of everyone else. So you're going to kind of like slow some teams down or possibly speed some teams up. So you're really like that felicitator, just going around the room, watching teams and making sure that everyone is kind of going at a similar pace. But there probably will be a time, I know I had this, where a team finishes all of their stations. Their team worked really well together, and they finished. Other teams had a little bit more time, so they were still working. So that's when you need a bonus station. Now, I personally like to keep the Play-Doh and the Legos out of my regular QR breaking station so that I could use them for the bonus station and make it really fun for those students. So basically, they got a choice if between like using Play-Doh or Legos. With the Play-Doh, they could build what they learned with the Play-Doh, be ready to tell me, the property manager, lots of details. And this all had to do with whatever they have been learning and what stood out to them through all the stations that had to do with the Wonders weekly assignments and activities. Or they could choose to build what they learned with Legos. A lot of students love doing that. But they had to annotate on a whiteboard or even on a Google slide, a 3x5 card would even work, about the significance of that creation. So these are a few examples from my class on here. Again, you really get to choose what your bonus station looks like. And I think that the bonus station makes sure that you have that ready to go, because you never know when possibly a team finishes just a little bit earlier than the rest. I really hope that you use Wonderopoly QR Break-In and put this in your teacher toolkit, because your students are absolutely going to love this. It really is a game changer when it comes to teaching Wonders.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.